The Day Billy Fell Off the Cliff by Byron Broussard. The Day Billy Fell Off the Cliff, Part 13. Only I can judge my intuition, Rick said in a shaky, scared voice. He fell to his knees in front of me. Oh, Billy, you've created possibilities out of nothing. Let me go fight in this war. Me patted Rick on the head. Please come to me if you ever need anything. We all know you can find me. Let me know when you find a way out of here. He looked to Jessica. She was making a face at him. I will let you go, Billy said. I can't pretend like you didn't help us a whole bunch. What do you make of the war? I see it as a way to become helpful to your cause. I know that this place can't just be a holding cell, and you are the first to do something really new. I am going to do whatever you want me to until I can do more for myself, Rick answered. Billy thought that Rick's answer felt honest. The old Pathfinder finds that his ultimate path was a follower this whole time, Jessica said to Rick with a hint of malice. What's your problem, Jessica? I have never done anything to you. I am only guilty of being an explorer, Rick said, trying to defend himself. Tell that to all those flaming people you turned into lightning on whims and failed missions. You're worse than Billy. At least he has the decency to correct his mistakes. And honestly, that's probably why he found the right path. Because he wasn't just thinking about himself. She folded her arms. Me put a reassuring hand on Jessica's flaming arm. You're right. Maybe I should go rectify my reckless behavior by finding those flaming people and showing them the light. Maybe one of them will find the real way out of this hellscape. Rick sat down in a chair. I don't know what to do next, but I do know that I can help now. Jessica relaxed. Plus, only I can judge me, Rick added quietly. So, me, about this war. I get that I started it, and I kind of understand that to finish it is to introduce people to their inner selves. But would that really finish it if we have yet to finish our quest? Billy didn't feel like this was the best question, but it's what came out first. Introducing those flaming people to their inner selves is a feat that may prove to be more difficult than you make it sound. It is the next step if you wish to ever leave this self-reflection. Me paused and looked at Rick and Jessica. You're right, though. The quest comes first, and the war will just restart at another point if we don't finish the quest. So it's a matter of necessity. We need to be able to walk around, so we should make the space more compatible to our needs, Jessica said, chiming in. No, it's more like using me outside as a new path, and new paths will lead to new discoveries. The war is just incentive and also an obstacle, Rick said. Billy suspected that he was calculating his purpose. Right, and right, me said. I can actually see the future, but even the discussion of these events and most every discussion Billy makes will manipulate the path that we are actually on. Jessica sipped her coffee and Rick looked away. Me continued. I will let you all know if we are close to losing the path of the quest, although I did not think Billy would actually let that happen. Well, I have an idea of what I want to know about me. Tell me our best options for Rick. What job should we assign him? Rick looked up and smirked. Honestly, I just want you out of here now that you're talking. I don't want to just mute you, and you seem really... Redo of that sentence. Honestly, I just want you out of here now that you are talking. I don't want to just mute you, and you seem ready to help, so a win-win is to send you out there. Yes, get me out with a grand objective. My me learned to wait, and now it is open to the past, and we trust you, Billy, Rick said. Jessica's image rolled her eyes. Send him on a fucked up mission, me. He deserves it, Jessica said. What mission he's actually sent on will be up to Billy to name, and up to Rick to actually carry out. I am in the business of providing options, Jessica. Sorry, Meade told her. She looked at Rick and sighed. You can let him fight alongside us. You can let him guard me specifically. You can have him catch and release as many people as he can each time, telling them about their respective me's. You can have him collect as many people as he can to slim the numbers of flaming people out there fighting. You can keep him here for company. You can put him in your bag and forget about him for a while. Me sipped her coffee and let Billy think about what she said. Rick got up and paced the floor. I like the idea of keeping people from bothering us. I like the idea of him keeping people from bothering us. I also like the idea of him telling people about their me, Billy said, thinking out loud. Rick, what I want you to do out there is gather as many people as you can, and I know that's going to be a lot of people. Now, whenever you meet a will that surpasses yours, I want you to enter your self-reflection and tell them about their me, then release them. Rick smiled and nodded. If you don't meet anyone who threatens you, just hold the people inside you. All the lightning out there means that this place is going to be overcrowded until you carry out your task. So, I'm a holding cell. I can dig it, Rick said to Billy. Collect people until I'm compromised, at which time I'll tell everyone I've collected about their me. I have a purpose in this hellscape, and I thank you, Billy. Figure out what the fuck we are doing here. The image of Rick disappeared. What a night, Jessica said in a sarcastic tone. What a night, Billy said as a joke. What's a night? Me said in a toneless voice. They laughed together. Billy reached for Rick and put him inside the backpack. Then he exited the black of self-reflection and saw me standing in front of him on the path between cottages. Hello again, Billy. She looked up as she reached for Rick and made red lightning shoot towards the star. The sound of the campfire dulled slightly while Billy had me in his sights. She looked up as he reached for Rick and made red lightning shoot towards the star. The sound of the campfire dulled slightly while Billy had me in his sights. I wish I could be inside and out, or rather, I wish I could talk to you, too, from outside, Jessica said, sounding jealous. Don't be silly, Jessica, me answered in her toneless voice. You can come and go as you please. That sounds complicated, but it's true, Billy said. 3 red flashes of lightning went up, one after the other, in Billy's sights. Big sphere is still adjusting, eh? There are people coming our way, Billy, me said tonelessly. Kill 'em, Jessica said plainly. If you can beat me, you can beat anyone. Billy turned around to see 2 flaming men with swords in their hands approaching cautiously. He looked down at his hands to make sure he wasn't in the form of a flaming beast. He looked like a normal flaming human, but the 2 flaming men had already seen me. We should just run, right, me? He asked, unsure about how to handle the situation. This will go much smoother when you are actually controlling your own situation, Billy, she answered. He took 2 steps back, and the 2 flaming men split up to flank them. Billy took out his sword and waved it at them, then held it in a protective manner in front of me. They continued to close in on them, despite Billy's gestures. Can you even get hurt, me? Jessica asked, sounding a little suspicious about her helplessness. Billy scooted me close to him and held his sword out towards the closest flaming man. No, I cannot get hurt. And I don't know if I can be consumed, though. She answered, looking at the guy that Billy wasn't facing. I guess we gotta test that at some point, me said as Billy left her side to attack the closest flaming man. Billy spun around with his sword out and brought it down heavily on the flaming man. Flames shot out from his wounds, from his shoulder to his waist. Billy pulled out his sword and flipped it down. He ran back towards me just in time to block a sword swing from the second flaming man. He was aiming at me, who stood in her place, the only thing not on fire. Billy went around her, flipping his sword back upwards. He glanced back at the first flaming man he attacked, making sure that he wasn't approaching. The second flaming man tried to swipe at Billy while he wasn't paying complete attention to him. Billy did not see where the strike landed and chose not to feel the pain. He looked at the flaming man, who was winding up to strike again, and stepped towards him, extending his arm and sword. The tip of the sword went into the flaming man's head, between his eyes, and the wind-up froze. Billy pulled out his sword and looked back to the first flaming man. "You can't just stand there, Me. Either defend yourself or evade," Jessica called out, as if Me couldn't hear inside Billy's head. "Really, though, it would help," Billy said, agreeing. Me looked at him and pointed up towards the star. "There's a flaming beast watching us," she said. Billy sighed and turned around. The flaming beast was flying in circles over them. It seemed to be looking at me. Billy held his sword toward the flaming beast. Billy held his sword towards the flaming flying beast, and then pointed with his free hand at the two flaming men who were crumpled on the ground. "You think he's going to eat your scraps, Billy? Either run or fly up there and cut off his wings," Jessica said in excitement. "Wait, you did this lollygag thing against me too. What's your angle?" The flaming beast got closer to the ground. Billy scooted Me behind him. "What I was doing then and now is offering an alternative to fighting. Treating these people with respect. With you, I even had a whole goblet that came from my goodwill. With them, I just want to show them that I'm rational. The flaming beast landed on the flaming man, who was lying furthest from Billy. "See? It may have worked." Billy began to scoot Me and himself back away from the beast without looking away. "An alternative to fighting. You're insane, Billy." Jessica sounded as if she accepted his plan. Billy and Me scooted to the side, putting a cottage between them and the flaming beast, who hadn't moved from standing on top of the flaming man. "He's not insane, Jessica. He's actually breaking their will with his weird actions," Me said tonelessly. They were hiding next to the cottage, and Billy looked around. There was a flaming woman in the cottage they were next to. The door was a few feet away from them, and she was looking out at them. Billy could also see a flaming man coming out of a cottage that was further down the path. 3 flashes of red lightning went up towards the star. Billy looked to the flaming woman and waved his hand at her. From their position, the flaming woman who was headed their way could see him waving too. Me smiled at them. The flaming woman put her hand to her mouth, and the flaming man began to pick up speed coming towards them. Sometimes breaking someone's will leads to their will becoming stronger, and that's a gamble as much as fighting is, Me said. A flaming man flew past them and crumpled on the coal-like ground. A flaming beast dropped down from the air and grabbed Billy's arm with a claw. Instinctively, Billy jumped up and stabbed it in the chest with his sword. The claw let him go, and by the time Billy landed, the beast was on the ground. The flaming woman had disappeared from the doorway of the cottage, and the flaming man was almost upon them. It seemed like he slowed down and watched that scene before proceeding to draw the sword in the attack position. Billy switched his sword from his left hand to his right. The flaming man used his inertia to swing hard from Billy's left to his right. The strike was easily parried by Billy's swinging and making the flaming man's sword flow over Billy's head. Billy then caught the flaming man in what looked like an embrace before violently dragging his sword across the back of the flaming man's neck, severing his head. The headless flaming man crumpled upon the ground. The headless flaming man crumpled onto the coal-like ground. Billy turned to the body of the flaming beast that was a foot away and kicked it. It began to move, so he stepped over it and severed its head. He turned back towards me, who was still standing next to the cottage, and saw the flaming woman was back in the doorway, but this time with a sword in her hand. Me's Vantablack arm stuck out and pointed. "Behind you. One of them is getting back up," she said. The flaming woman in the door was looking at me, and as her lips moved, the flaming woman prepared to strike. Billy ran towards the flaming woman, not caring what the flaming man was doing behind him. He extended his sword in her gut before she had the chance to decide on how to attack or defend. He ripped his sword out while turning around to face the flaming man. The flaming man that had flown across the coals earlier was standing and walking slowly towards me. Billy could see from his wound that it was the same man that he had slashed from the shoulder down. "The flaming beast must have thrown him at me," Billy said as he walked towards him. The flaming man looked as if he was on the verge of becoming a flaming skeleton, and Billy felt bad for him. Billy swung for the flaming man's neck to sever his head, but the flaming man blocked and sidestepped. He slashed upwards at Billy while he was open. Billy could see flames coming from his midsection and feel a burning sensation. "Fuck, he was more spry than I thought," Billy said, reaching out with his free hand. Billy grabbed the flaming man by the neck and flipped his sword tip down, and with fluid motions and stabbed him in the head. "Fuck you," Billy yelled as the flaming man crumpled back onto the coals. He pulled out his sword and walked back to me. "Holy shit, that was brutal, Billy. I didn't know you had it in you," Jessica said in astonishment. "Let's go, Me. I feel it may be strange to stand around a pile of decapitated bodies," Billy said, holding his hand out to me. Me looked past him and again held out a Vantablack arm, pointing. "More flaming beasts are coming, Billy. They've already seen us and the pile of decapitated bodies," she said without tone, but with a smirk on her face. "Fuck," Billy said, putting his arm back at his side. He looked around and saw 6 flaming beasts flying in 3-by-2 formation towards them. "Any more so-called warnings, Me?" he asked. "To the right, 3 cottages away. A flaming woman has seen me and is on her way," she reported. "Also, behind you, 2 cottages back, a flaming man is watching but not moving." Me began to walk around Billy, looking out and towards the sky. Flashes of red lightning flashed up towards the star. "There are flaming people in most of these cottages, and there are many flaming beasts in the sky." She stopped and looked out at the 6 flaming beasts making their way towards them. "Fuck," Billy complained. His guard dropped and his shoulders sagged. His flaming body began to sway back and forth in a pout. Me laughed. "The fuck are you doing, Billy? Get your ass to a better vantage point. They have the high ground." Jessica sounded like she was in her element. "There, go into the cottage the flaming woman came out of. That way you have the chance of fighting them one at a time." Me walked towards the cottage, turned and looked at Billy, who was motionless. Then she entered, following Jessica's directions. The flaming beasts were almost upon them. "Move!" Jessica shouted inside of Billy's head. Billy looked around before shuffling to the cottage and going inside.